We the pod football. We disky. We football. We transfers. We stats. We history. People, we hear it again and we're talking about the Champions League. Thank you for joining me again, people. I know we've been on a bit of a hiatus, but we're back, people, after the international break. A couple of games, a couple of leagues have played. Some games, they've progressed. But we're going to be covering them. But we're recording this on a Saturday. And with that being said, we're going to be talking about the Champions League. But before we talk about the Champions League, show some support, people, like you always have been showing. Leave a like, leave a comment in our comment section, tell us about our content, turn on the notifications bell to let you know of all content that we're dropping, as well as subscribing, people. We'll be talking about the Champions League Tuesday and Wednesday's fixtures, to be specific. And we're going to be kicking it off in Italy with a 3-1 win for AC Milan against Club Bruges. That was an expected win for AC Milan, the Milan-based side. Definitely coming in clutch with 2 goals coming in the 61st and the 71st minute respectively by Reiners, the AC Milan player, but it finished 3-1 AC Milan, who are currently, as I check my notes right now, people, who are currently in 6th place in the Serie A. Not doing the best. I mean, they played 8 games so far, but it's still early in the season and it's still early in the Champions League. However, in the Champions League, they've been looking very sharp, people. AC Milan, who are currently in 11th. No, hold on, let me check that. 25th position. Wow. So it's not looking so good for Milan. That really makes you wonder if Pioli is going to be kept on for the long term. Mind you, in January the transfer window is going to be open again. So are they going to be looking to get a new manager? Because they're not really doing that well. In 25th position in the Champions League, they've currently lodged 3 points after 3 games. I mean, they should be doing a bit better, but at least they got the win. This is their first win by the likes of it, people, in the Champions League for AC Milan, but it finished 3-1. Next match, a 5-1 drubbing by Monaco against Red Star. That was an expected win for Monaco. I mean, a team that's produced the likes of Thierry Henry, Kylian Mbappe, Tchouaméni, for example. Sorry, not Tchouaméni, Bakayoko, the former Chelsea man. Sorry about that, people. But I mean, they're a team that's definitely stacked with youth. And those youth players show that they're hungry for Champions League football. They won 5-1. Mind you, Monaco are currently in 2nd place in League 1, but they did more than enough with that 5-1 win. The Prince of Monaco will be happy with that. It finished 5-1. Another 5-goal drubbing. It came from the likes of Real Madrid against Dortmund. Germany fans will definitely be disappointed. Germany fans in Dortmund. Let me remind you, people, Dortmund, they played Real Madrid in last season's Champions League final, so you would have expected them to have played a bit better. But technically, they only lost by 3 goals, people. But they should have done better. But they're doing good, though. They're still doing good in the Bundesliga. They're definitely showing that they're not at weak side. They're currently in the top half of the Bundesliga, but they should be doing a lot better. Mind you, there was talk about the Dortmund manager leaving, getting a job at Real Madrid, but I don't think that's possible with the way that they're performing. But it finished 5-2. They should have done a lot better, people. Let me know about what you think about each fixture, people. And the next fixture we're going to be talking about is Arsenal versus Shakhtar Donetsk. The North London-based side won 1-0 after losing 2-0 to Bournemouth in the EPL. But luckily, Arteta was able to show that he does have a bit of experience in the Champions League. However, no silverware for Arsenal, people. They were expected to win. That was one of the few games that I actually watched. and they should have done a bit better. But one thing I can say about a strong side is that they're able to get points, a win in other words, even when they're not playing at their best. But however, they're going to be playing a Liverpool tomorrow. Mind you, we're filming this on a Saturday, so it's going to be a tough ask. They've got a lot of injury issues, but can Arsenal show that they're willing and they're ready to win a major title? It's eluded them all these years, but it finished 1-0 for Arsenal against Shakhtar Donetsk. Next fixture, surprisingly now, this one is a bit of a Cinderella story, people. Aston Villa are currently in first place in the Champions League. Yes, people. But if you know your history, that's not too shocking. I mean, Unai Emery, the Aston Villa manager, he's won 3 Europa Leagues, 2 with Sevilla, 1 with Villarreal. So he understands continental football. But let's not get our hopes up too early. They've only played 3 games. There's 5 more games to play, people. And mind you, they still got to play the teams from Pool A, the teams with the highest coefficients. In other words, people, to simplify in layman's terms, teams from Pool A are the strongest teams, and they haven't played a strong team yet. But they did good to win against Bologna. They lost a lot of quality players in the sense of Joshua Zirkzee, their talisman, as well as Ricardo Calafiori. So they're still going through with like a semi-rebuild. But it was expected for them to win, and they're doing really well. Prince William will be happy, the Aston Villa fan. Next fixture, we're going to be talking about Paris Saint-Germain. Now, an interesting fact about Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal as well, they share a similarity. The similarity that they share is that Luis Enrique, the current PSG manager, and Mikel Arteta, the current Arsenal manager, were under the reigns of Pep Guardiola. Obviously, Luis Enrique at Barcelona when Pep Guardiola was still in Spain, and Arteta at Man City when he was currently as he is in England. They were both coached and they learned and applied their trade from Pep Guardiola. However, Luis Enrique, he hasn't been looking too good, to say the least. In the Champions League, they're currently in 19th position. I mean, you would expect them to lose better, but at the end of the day, what's a predator without his teeth? What do I mean by that? I mean, they lost Kylian Mbappe to Real Madrid, and they didn't really get a replacement that's of the ranks. Mind you, PSG, a team that's had Neymar, a team that's had Ronaldinho, Beckham, just to name a few stars. You would expect them to do better, but they definitely lost a quality talent in Kylian Mbappe. It hasn't looked so good for him in Real Madrid, however, but it's not looking good for PSG either in the Champions League. I mean, in Ligue 1, they're currently in first position with 20 points, sharing 20 points with Monaco. Mind you, I told you they won 5-1, so they lead first place with 3 points. PSG have 20 points, Monaco have 20 points, Marseille have 17, so they're 3 points clear in Ligue 1. But it's not looking so rosy, if I can say that, in the Champions League. They're currently in 19th place. After 3 games, only managing 4 points. I mean, they should do better. But that's a win, a draw, and a loss. But it's still early, people. 5 more games to go. The last game of Tuesday was Girona winning 2-0 against Bratislava. It was expected. Bratislava, who are currently in last place with 0 points in the Champions League, unable to lodge points against Girona. I mean, Girona, a strong side. They finished 3rd last season, and they have a lot of spending power. Mind you, Girona, they are owned by Man City, people. Yeah, so in other words, Man City and Girona are sister teams, having the same parent. But they won 2-0, but they're looking good. They're definitely looking good. Not in the Champions League, however. They're 4th in La Liga, but they're in 24th position. That's basically a playoff position. So this is their first time playing Champions League football after a while. We can't be too shocked at where they are, but they do well to lodge points. That rounds it up for Tuesday's fixtures. Now we're going to be talking about Wednesday's fixtures. First one we're going to be kicking it off with Brest. We're held to a 1-1 draw against Bayer Leverkusen. Xabi Alonso's side unable to get a win against Brest. However, they've been performing really well in the Champions League. They're currently in 6th place in automatic last 16 place. So they're guaranteed, currently where they are, they're guaranteed a last 16 place. But there's still many more games to play, and that wasn't really a hard match for them, but you would have expected them to get the win. Mind you, Bayer Leverkusen were the invincible side of Germany last season, not losing a single game and winning the Bundesliga. But it finished 1-1. Another stalemate we're going to be talking about is at Atalanta versus Celtic. It finished 0-0. The Scottish side holding the Super League runner-ups. Mind you, they won the Europa League to a 0-0 stalemate. Some would say Atlanta should have done better, but I feel like they did alright. I mean, Atlanta, when I look at my notes, people, they're currently in 17th place. So if they finish in 17th place, they're going to be getting a 2-leg playoff match to decide whether or not they go to the last 16. But it was a better, how can I put it? It was better for Celtic. Celtic are the ones that did better. And surprisingly, Celtic, obviously, they always win in Scotland. But they're also in 20th place in a playoff position. So if you refer back to our old video, I talked about my prediction of the Champions League. I put them in an automatic elimination position. But they're currently in a playoff position. But can they maintain that? They still got 5 more games to go. Next match, Dinamo Zagreb won 2-0 against RB Salzburg, the Austrian-based side. You would expect it maybe for it to finish with a draw. However, Dinamo Zagreb, the Croatian side, they're a strong side. They're used to playing in the Champions League. They're experienced in continental football, and they show their experience, and they're also in an automatic last 16 playoff position. They're currently in the 22nd position, but they won 2-0. Now, an upset, if I would say the least, was a 4-1 win by Barcelona versus Bayern München, the German-based side, which is currently managed by Vincent Kompany. I'm not surprised that Barca won, to say the least. I'm not surprised. I mean, both Barcelona and Bayern have new managers. Barca recently acquired Hansi Flick. Like I mentioned, Vincent Kompany recently acquired by Bayern Munich. But if he continues to lose in this way, he'll definitely lose his job. If you refer back to history, people, Niko Kovac lost 5-1 in the Champions League. And by the time he went to the changing rooms, he didn't have a job. So they definitely need to do better. That wasn't a good result for them. And they're currently in 23rd position. But they still have Vincent Kompany, a new manager. His team just got relegated. Can the München elite show that we know why we hired Vincent Kompany? But when you look at the Champions League, we don't understand why you hired him. Can they prove us wrong? 5 more games to go, people. We'll see. Next match, Man City got an easy win, 5-0 against Sparta Prague. There's nothing else we expected from that. They're looking strong. Like I mentioned, 2 managers that were under Pep Guardiola that are competing in the Champions League. So Man City are definitely a strong side, and they're showing that they're a strong side. I mean, they've already won the Champions League. They're not the current Champions League holders, but they've already won it, so they're showing that they know what they're doing in this particular competition. But they won 5-0 against Sparta Prague. Next match, a 3-1 upset by Lille to Atletico Madrid. Diego Simeone's defensive tactics unable to prove dividends. I mean, you wouldn't expect defensive tactics to win against a French side, with all due respect. You would have thought that they would have been more attacking with the likes of Julian Gomez, the man they've just acquired recently from Man City. But unfortunately, they went on the ball that day. Maybe they played too many games, people. I can't really tell you. And they're currently in an elimination position. They are not qualified for the last 16 where they are in the Champions League. They're in 27th position. If they remain there, they're not going to advance to the last 16, but I don't think that's going to happen, people. However, Diego Simeone needs to get back to the drawing board. They can't afford losing matches like that. Mind you, their next match is against PSG. But it finished 3-1 to Lille. Last 3 fixtures, Feyenoord getting a win against Benfica. I say this is an even bout. The Dutch side dismantling the Portuguese side 3-1. They show that they're serious about having a last 16 finish. Mind you, you get paid. The Champions League pays you more than a lot of these domestic leagues, a lot of these European leagues. So if they finish in a last 16, if they get eliminated there, depending on who they get matched up against, they'll get definitely a nice payout. But it finished 3-1 for Feyenoord. Liverpool, who are currently first in the Premier League, got a 1-0 win against RB Leipzig, who are struggling. People, in the Champions League. But funny enough, in the Bundesliga, they're number 1. They're leading the log with 3 points. They're 3 points clear, in other words. With 20 points, they're 3 points clear in the Bundesliga. Behind them is Bayern. After that is Bayer Leverkusen with 15 points. So in other words, they're 3 points clear of Bayern Munich, who in second place, and 5 points clear of Leverkusen. But they're unable to transfer these winning ways in the Champions League. But it's still early, like I said. And the last fixture, Young Boys lost 1-0 to Inter Milan. Inter Milan, they're looking sharp in the Champions League. They are currently in a top 6 position. Top 8 position. They're in 7th place. They've been doing really well. But that rounds it up, people, for our Champions League recap of Tuesday and Wednesday's fixtures here at Uefa Football. We disky, we transfers, we history, we stats, we football. We out, people.